And that was when we found out what the play was going to be. Dracula, Miss Summers shouted, bouncing in front of the auditorium with her usual verve. The crowd burst into equal parts groans and cheers. So done with vampires, I heard Annika Rao say, a few rows back. Her tittering crowd of sycophants, the girl hanger-ons Morgan had aptly named Anakites, burst into laughter. I sighed. Wait, Miss Summers said. Her voice cut through the din, sharp and clear. There's a twist! They sparkle! Courtney shot out. He and Benny were sitting in the front row, as they usually did. Miss Summers gave a wide, exaggerated stage shrug and waved her hand. This version of Dracula is written by one of our very own students, Miss Summers exclaimed. The class murmured. Mr. Krakowski, would you tell the class your vision? Miss Summers said, and slid into one of the seats. I glanced at Morgan. Morgan shook her head. Benny and Morgan had sorta kinda dated last year, but it had all fizzled out rather amicably. Morgan was even better at breaking up than I was. They were still friends, but from the look on her face, Morgan was just as surprised by his sudden leap into the playwright pool. Benny popped up. It's Dracula, right? But what's Dracula about? Benny asked. His eyes were wide, almost manic. Gary Oldman, someone shouted. Industrialism and modernity, I shot out. I'd done a book report. Don't judge. Sex! Daphne shrieked, and the crowd collapsed into laughter. Benny pointed a finger at her and hopped up and down. Yes, that's right, Benny said. The Victorian fears about sex. Dracula turns Lucy Westenra into a vampire. A sexual, voluptuous thing, unburdened from her purity, right? So what do the heroes do? They kill her for it. Then they spend the rest of the book worrying about Jonathan Harker's wife, Mina, being turned into a vampire, which is basically a slut. I felt the crowd getting tuned up. I glanced at Miss Summers, wondering if she was going to put a stop to it. She observed Benny quietly, her hands folded in her lap. The idea was, if you weren't a perfect symbol of Victorian purity, you were a monster, and you ought to be decapitated, Benny said. Didn't they also drink blood and kill people? Morgan said flatly. Benny waved his hands like he was chasing away a cloud of bees. Think about it. When Jonathan Harker is captured by Count Dracula, what is he afraid of? Getting eaten by the Count? Maybe a little. But that's not what the book focuses on. It's Dracula's wives that attack Jonathan, that torment him with their wanton sexuality. The ultimate sin, a sexually progressive woman. They also killed people, Morgan insisted. Morg, don't cut my legs off, please, Benny asked. Morgan bowed her head to hide her smile. So how does the book end? Benny asked. I held my hand up. Benny laughed and waved his arms again, and I cleared my throat. Van Helsing kills Dracula's wives. Jonathan Harker, Dr. Seward, and Quincy Morris, the cowboy, chase down Dracula, where they kill him to free Mina from his thrall. What's a thrall? Danny asked. I shushed her. Then what? Benny asked. I guess Mina and Jonathan get married, happily ever after, etc. Basically, Benny says, all sexually progressive women are killed or saved before they can fall happily ever after. So what's the twist? Annika Rao said, because you are not selling this play very well. Annika, Courtney spun around. Does it bug you that all the easy chicks get killed? Too close to home. I snapped my head around. Annika crossed her arms, and though her Anakites had eyes for blood, she simply smiled and nodded, as if to say, go ahead, bark, little puppy. Courtney, Miss Summers warned. Courtney slumped back in his chair and made the go-on gesture to Benny. In my version, I want to shine a light on modern sexual worries, Benny said. So here's the difference. The main character, Mina Harker, real estate agent. Her and Jonathan swap completely. Lucy Westenra stays the same, and I'll explain why in a bit. The big change, can you guess it? Annika Rao spoke up this time, and she practically purred. Countess Dracula, she said, her voice now alive and tense. Benny shot her with a finger gun. Bingo!